Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thursdays Live with Chug. Each week, we cover pressing topics that matter to you and your business. My name is Ariana Gonzalez. I'm the Client Services Manager here at Chug Attorneys and CPAs. Please join me in welcoming attorney Ishan Anand from our Herndon, Virginia office. Hello, Ishan. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. So today we're going to talk about self-sponsorship options to migrate to the United States. Did you know that you don't need an employer to migrate to the United States? Ishan, let's dive right in and talk a little bit about why we don't always need an employer to migrate to the United States.
Now, there's a notion that people think you always need an employer or a family member to migrate to the US, but not always. There are some ways where you don't need a sponsor, you can sponsor yourself. Um, what is needed is extraordinary capability, skill set, or some investment. So there are ways you can invest in the US and get a green card, or there are ways if you think you have extraordinary competence, ability, then you can sponsor yourself.
Great, thank you for that insight. So what kind of documentation would I need to provide for my self-sponsorship application?
Depends on the type of application. Suppose let's talk about EB1, extraordinary ability, then you have to prove that you have received or you are a recipient of a one-time uh, award like an Oscar, Pulitzer, National Award, or Academy Award. If you have that, then that means you are one of the top few people in your field of expertise. You can provide that, and yes, and you can prove that you will come to the U.S. to pursue your proposed endeavor, which is to continue to do whatever you do. Or if you don't have that, then there are different ways. Then you have to basically prove that um, there are basically 10 criterias. So you have to fulfill three out of those 10. It can be that you judge other people's work, you command high salary. There are people or experts who talk about you in their publication, journals, or national television, press releases, or maybe you have published books on your expertise, on your knowledge about the profession. It can be art, science, business, athletics. So if you are amongst, I would say personally say, if you are amongst the top 3 to 5% in your area, then you are qualified to apply for EB1. All right, so in EB1 also there is EB1A and then EB1B, which is for professors and researchers. While in EB1A you do not need a job offer or a sponsor, in EB1B you need a job offer. You don't need they don't have to sponsor you for that, but they just have to say that we will hire this person, um, kind of a job offer you need. You don't need sponsorship for that. And then there is another option that's EB2, an EB2 employment based second preference category. Not all of them. National interest waiver, which is my favorite, and it's hot topic these days because everybody wants to file national interest waiver, and I think this is the best time to go for national interest waiver. We see a lot of approvals these days in national interest waiver category. So in the national interest waiver category, what you have to prove is, as we know that it's a EB2 category, so we have to prove that you have advanced degree. Advanced degree can be a master's, PhD, or if you do not have master's, then you have to prove that you have at least bachelor's degree, or if or its foreign equivalent, plus 5 years of progressive experience. So once you qualified as a person who has an advanced degree, then you have to prove Basically tell USCIS what's your proposed endeavor, what you want to do in the US, how your contribution is has substantial merit and national importance. What is that you do will benefit the economy, and then finally you have to prove that it is in the nation's interest that the job offer and the job sponsorship and the perm process should be waived. So if you prove all these, then you are eligible for national interest waiver. There are
Okay.
other ways too, but yeah.
Thank you for diving into that a little bit. We're gonna go into each of the different self-sponsorship visas just in a little bit. I do want to throw out a quick disclaimer out there for anyone watching, just so you know, we are live on YouTube, and this conversation is for informational purposes only. It does not create an attorney-client relationship. Please comment any live questions you have below, and if you're watching the recorded version, please email us at info@chug.com and we'll be happy to help you out. So let's get back to the discussion. Thank you again, Ishan, for your time and for being here. So how long would you say, in your experience, does the self-sponsorship process usually take?
Oh, it depends. It varies. So regular processing time varies, but then now we are fortunate to have premium processing, which is now eligible for national interest waiver. They say that they will adjudicate petitions in 45 days if you pay additional fee. But if you talk about normal processing time, it may vary uh, from say 4 months to 15 months. But anyway, 4 months is again, it's a lot of progress. We haven't seen this progress before. These days, you see approvals in 4 months, 3 months, and 5 months in regular processing also.
Great. Thank you for some insight into the timeline that usually takes in your experience. So would you say there are any restrictions on who can self-sponsor to migrate to the United States? Is there anything we have to be concerned about there?
Look, what you have to be concerned about is that do not try this yourself, meaning you can sponsor yourself, but do not prepare and try to submit petition yourself because recently, like not long ago, just two in last 2 months, I have received three um, basically uh, people came to me, they filed their own petitions. They filed their national interest waiver application, and then after receiving an RFE from USCIS, then they came to me like, can you do something about it? Now the thing is that if you file, then your filing is the most important piece of information that you send to USCIS. You cannot change the substance of the application after filing. So be very careful what you are filing because later on, when USCIS asks for further um, information, that is just to substantiate what you have filed. You cannot change the substance. So what happened in this case? This person in EB1 was an entrepreneur and had once in a lifetime achievement award for his philanthropic whatever he has done in his life, and he filed uh, national interest waiver. He could be qualified as EB1, but he filed national interest waiver um, as an engineer, and he has done some work in science, but I would see him as a entrepreneur, philanthropist, right? Something like that. So he filed, and then he came to me like, can we do something about it? And I was like, I cannot change it. We may file a new petition, but this I think is done. We cannot do anything about it. It's very difficult to save a petition or save a dying petition later on. So I would recommend if you feel that you are eligible for any of these self-sponsored or not even self-sponsored anything in immigration, if you feel that you are eligible, do not try this yourself.
Great. Thank you for talking about the importance of making sure that all of the information is correct and even speaking with your attorney to make sure that there are no mistakes because you cannot change the information once it's submitted. So thank you for sharing your insight on that. Do I have to
No,
be in the United States if I want to self-sponsor myself, or can I be outside of the US?
there is no guidelines on that. You can be in the US, you can be outside. So there is no specific rule about it that you have to be inside the US before filing the petition. No.
Okay, so what if I'm on a different type of visa? I'm in the United States, but I'm on a different type of visa. Can I still self-sponsor?
Now it depends what kind of visa you have. Some visas have restrictions on it that you cannot change your status while in the US. Some visas do not. So there are ways you can change your status within the US from one visa to another visa. So we need to basically evaluate your case and then see if we can transfer.
Okay, great. So what if we're in the United States illegally? Can I self-sponsor?
Oh, okay. So depends again. If you are illegal in the US, it's very difficult to put you back into status, meaning it's very difficult to adjust you if you are illegal in the US, but it's not impossible. So there is a way which is called 245I, and petition before April 30th, 2001. So if somebody has filed a petition for you before that date, then you acquire a status which is called 245I, or a protection. If you have that protection, then you can file a green card even if you are illegal, even if you have entered illegally in the US, or even if you have worked without authorization. You can still file green card within the US, but you all you have to do is basically pay $1,000 penalty fine and file a supplement, I think A, with your green card application. And if you are not filing employment petition, then there are simple ways like you can do um, uh, basically U visa, T visa, asylum, and those kinds of humanitarian applications you can file. And you can check my previous video. So we have elaborated these visa categories in my previous videos. I will not go into details of these categories here.
Great, thank you for touching on that for us. So, will I need to provide evidence of financial support for myself and any dependents if I want to self-sponsor?
No, basically employment petitions, if you, because see, you are actually telling USCIS that you are a person of higher competence, you're an expert, right? So when you come and you command high salary, then they are okay. They think that yes, when you enter the US, you will be positioned yourself, or you will position yourself in such a way that you will be able to earn a living here because you are not somebody or you are not an average person. You have extraordinary talent, so you don't have to provide any um, uh, basically financials. But yes, if you see now, the green card application has um, um, a portion where you say that we will not be a public charge later on, and we have never received public benefit in the US. So that declaration has to be given.
Okay, great. Thank you for that insight.
Yeah.
So, are there any language or educational requirements for self-sponsorship for immigration to the US that I need to be aware of?
Yeah, as I said, that you need advanced degree for national interest waiver because it's AB2 category. So for if you are applying for a national interest waiver, so you have to prove that you have at least masters. If you don't have masters, then if you have bachelor's, then you have 5 years of progressive experience. Because if you combine these two, then you and then you need an evaluation which says that it is equivalent to a U.S. masters. So then you can apply for national interest waiver.
Okay, great. Thank you.
EB1, if we go, yeah, if we go EB1, then you have to prove if you are an athlete, you may not be um, educated enough. Maybe you don't have advanced degree, but you are um, a top athlete with an Olympic gold medal. So that works.
Okay, great. So, in your experience, I know you've been doing this for some time. So, what are the risks associated with self-sponsorship and how can we mitigate those?
Same thing I talked before, the risks in self-sponsoring, that don't do it yourself. And sometimes you feel, because see, you are an expert in one area, and you may feel that you can do it yourself, but do not touch it. Don't do it yourself, because see that what happens, these applications, um, you know, it's very you have to be very strategic about these application. You have to prepare the application and in such a way that you convey your message to USCIS, because it's a lot of paperwork. USCIS knows nothing about your competence. There you may miss something which is crucial for your application, and we don't want that.
Okay, great. Thank you for talking about that. So make sure if you're watching this to speak with your attorney, make sure all of the information on your form is correct. And if you are just hopping on to watch us, we are talking about self-sponsorship options to migrate to the United States. This conversation is for informational purposes only. It does not create an attorney-client relationship. So please comment your live questions below or email us at info@chug.com and we'll be happy to help you out. So let's talk about the different types of visas. I know you talked a little bit about a few of them, but we have quite a few options. We have the EB1 visa, we have the EB2 visa, we have the national interest waiver, we have the EB5 visa, the Q1, the L1, and the H1. So let's touch on these a little bit. So for the EB1 visa, who is eligible to apply for one?
EB1, we talked about it. We talked about EB1, we talked about EB2 national interest waiver. Now let's talk about EB5.
Okay, great.
So EB5 is, like as I said, that if you have extraordinary competence skill set, that's one way to apply for self-sponsored visas. And the other way is if you have enough money to basically invest in the US, then you can apply for your green card. So in this way, if you have $1 million, the limit is $1,050,000. But I simply say, if you have $1 million, um, then you can invest in the U.S. in some business, and with that investment, with the help of that investment, if you can generate 10 direct employments, then you are eligible for a green card. There is another way in investment category where you do not invest in your business or somebody else's business. You directly invest in regional centers. There are businesses already set up, and they comply with all the requirements of investor category visa. So you invest in that business directly and buy some equity, and you can file the green card. Now you do not have to be worried about uh, employments. You don't have to be worried like, okay, I have to create employment, because they will do everything for you. They are already compliant. They have employment requirement fulfilled. Everything is set up. You just have to invest. And if you do that, the investment is 800,000, not $1 million. So you save some money here. And yeah, that's for EB5. And there is another category, that's a treaty category. And that's not for everyone, only for people who come from treaty investor countries. Not every country is a member of treaty country. So if you are from those countries, then you can invest in some company here or open your own company here. And there is the good news is that there is no minimum investment requirement. It can be $100,000. It can be a $200,000 investment. As long as that investment is substantial according to your business needs, you will be fine. You will have an e-visa here. So that's one. Then one important thing that you need to know is when you apply for national interest waiver, consider that it's a employment based two category, meaning India and China, you are backlogged. Even if you are, because recently received a call that the person was from China, and the person was telling me to file a green card because uh, his NIW was approved. So I was like, you cannot because you are backlogged. And he's like, oh yes, but somebody told me it's an exceptional category. And I said, yes, it's an exceptional category, but anyway, it's EB2. So you are backlogged, you cannot file for I think next 10-15 years. And he was like, oh, in 10-15 years, my child will be 21. He can sponsor me. I was like, yes, go ahead. So wait for 15 years at least. So
Wow,
yeah.
thank you for that insight and sharing that story. Thank you for touching on that and the different ways that you can meet the financial requirements for that visa. So you mentioned the O1 visa. Can you talk a little bit about the O1 visa, who is eligible to apply for that?
O1 is not self-sponsored. So for O1, it is an extraordinary. Basically, if you are, so here's the thing. If you are eligible for O1, you are eligible for EB1 also. O1 is it's for like, it's extraordinary competence category, but it's a non-immigrant visa. It's not, it will not give you green card. And also for O1, you need a sponsor or an agent in the US who
Okay.
will go ahead and, file for you. But you cannot get O1 without a sponsor. O1 is not a self-sponsored visa category.
Okay, great. Thank you for your insight on that. So what about the L1 visa? Can you talk a little bit about the L1 visa?
All right. Again, see, L and H, nobody talks about it because it's directly is not a self-sponsored way to get you here. Again, these two are again non-immigrant visa categories, but there are ways. So what we have seen in the past that uh, L visa is not only for big corporations. Similarly, H, it's not only for big corporations. Startups can actually file petitions for H and Ls. All right, and startups can be your own startups. All you have to prove is that you have a bona fide job offer and you have an employer-employee relationship. Now, how you can prove it? There are so many ways to prove it. So in L, you may be the owner in the company. So for L, you need a corporation outside the US, and then you can have a new corporation, set up a new corporation, which is a subsidiary or a parent or a branch or an affiliate of your foreign corporation. So you can incorporate it here, and then you can transfer your employee. Now, employee can be you yourself, meaning an executive transfer or a managerial transfer. You can transfer yourself from offshore company to the US corporation if you can show that there is a management control in both the corporation and then control is common, you can transfer. It's not directly self-sponsored, but yes, uh, people who have their own companies outside and here, they can transfer themselves like their VPs, their CEOs, they can transfer themselves. And same thing for H1s. Suppose you have 20% stake in XYZ and XYZ wants to sponsor your H1 as long as you can prove that you do not control the hiring and firing, you do not control the management, you do not control the board, and these things are independent, and you do not uh, cloud their judgment. Yes, you may be qualified to sponsor yourself, do the H1. It's not direct, but yes.
Okay, great. So the H1 and L1, not direct, but we do have the option to sponsor ourselves through that.
Yes, indirectly.
Okay, great. Thank you for your insight on that. Do you have any suggestions for anybody who is hoping to come to the United States with a self-sponsorship visa, other than, making sure the information is correct and you talk to your attorney because you can't change the information once it's filed? Is there anything else that you've seen, some common mistakes maybe in your experience when people file that you would recommend for anybody hoping to go through the same process?
They file, basically what I've seen in my experience, they file wrong petitions. Like they so let me so now they USCIS is fine with this, but back in the day they actually denied one of our petitions. There was a person who was a world class athlete, and we filed in Owen for this person here, and we filed as an coach. We filed as a coach. So USCI said, "Yeah, we know, we understand that this person is a extraordinary person, and he has, gold medal and once in a lifetime medal, but he has medals as an athlete, not as a coach. So show us that he has extraordinary competence and excellence in coaching." So basically we appealed and we got the approval eventually, but now you can prove that. Now, if you are an athlete, you can prove that, if I'm an athlete, I can actually further this endeavor of my expertise. I can be uh, I can be very useful if I teach your guys whatever I do best. I can be more beneficial to the U.S. economy if I can create 10 of your guys like me. So we could get it done, but it is possible in this area where somebody is an athlete, but not in all the categories. Like you see in this previous category where we talked about this entrepreneur who filed as an engineer. So you cannot change much, but athlete and then coach, it's kind of a similar thing. So I would say when you opt for this option, make sure you go through it and then you strategize everything in advance before filing it.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and for your time, Ishan. We super appreciate your expertise and sharing all of your insight on this topic. So this does bring us to the end of our discussion. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. To stay up to date, please subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@chook.com, and make sure to join us back here next week for more pressing topics that truly matter to you and your business. Thank you so much. Stay safe and take care.